has just gotten off the phone to Saudi Arabia, and they say, we're sending over some Iraqis. Can you give them some easy money work and not do your job? And she says, oh, sure. I get a kickback, don't I? And they say, oh, of course, Teresa. She's a regional manager at Solari, and she has been actively a part of harassing a Christian, me, in a wheelchair. Try to reach me by phone, 424-229-4140, and make a video of Teresa and all of Solari Enterprises getting wherever they're going. Ask him, why can't I reach Melton? Hold up my imagery for them. Give them my imagery and tell them, when else will my phone not be allowed to work? Are you placing Adolf Hitler in our presidency with that cowardly Hussein placing kind of stuff? Solari, get them on video screaming out what else they're doing. So Adam is police chief from another state, county, city, top of the cops from non-California, non-Utah police, and he's talking to each and every one of the top cops of California, including the LAPD's Michael Moore, currently being bitch-slapped by the Mormon cult this morning, as he has been quite often. Either that or he's active in America's Hijack Lifelines by harassing a Christian in a wheelchair. And the police chief, he gets Michael Moore and others introducing, other top cops, introducing him to their impersonators of me. And he's got a nice audio maker in his phone and otherwise documenting the whole thing for the Senate Subcommittee. Alice is testifying before the Senate Subcommittee. And the Senate, looking into the compromising of our security that is America's Hijack Lifelines, me not getting a Flight 93 check in over a decade of asking. And the senator asked her what happened when you tried to call Melton with that Flight 93 check, and she says, I got a Mormon. They are often talking around here about I call them walkie-talkie phones, and committing fraud openly. And she got one of their many impersonators of me, and she said it was obvious he wasn't Melton. And the senator says, what do you do? She says, well, aside from BS, and sent me a cartoon Book of Mormon. And she puts it up on the stand there, and the senator from Utah says, I object, I object. And he walks over and says, no, that's one of ours. Enter it into evidence. YouTube Susan Wojcicki has every lawyer her hundreds of millions of dollars can buy in a room, and she's also got the Senate Subcommittee Special Prosecutor, and she says to him, I was assured by the cowardly Hussein federal folks, feds, that it was perfectly all right to infringe upon Mr. Brady's rights as an American, and all American and even non-American businessmen, many of whom have videos of fraudulent view count regarding Susan. And the special prosecutor says, oh, he's under indictment himself, the feds you used to have, and we're seriously looking into you. So Teague Terrace's furball is in front of the Senate Subcommittee, and the senator is asking him, he's telling him, do you know how many folks they have trying to call Mr. Brady over the past decade? And you can reach him by phone, and all those folks don't know when else their phone won't be allowed to work. Mr. Vergara, Solari Enterprises, what is your very active part in America's Hijack Lifelines? And the furball scratches a plea and says, oh, I refuse to answer that on the grounds of my Fifth Amendment protection. Yeah, they're very into Muslims, harassing Christians with Teague Terrace. So you call them on that. You call 24/7, park a fleet of noisemakers outside their homes. They parked a fleet of noisemakers outside of my homes and below my home. And you ask them, when else will my phone not be allowed to work? You get them screaming out what else they're doing. Compromises America's security. Enterprises. Teresa, regional manager, is an active part in your family's hijacked lifeline. Try to call me right now. 424-229-4140. She and Sean, a current manager, if a manager tries to do their jobs, Enrique Vergara, part of Solari Enterprises, hassles them, moves them around, fires them, I don't know what, but he's got a lot of folks being thugs, as Solari Enterprises makes a whole lot of money from Hackla and other folks. They got a whole lot of regulatory agencies that they have to answer to. So ask those regulatory agencies and all Americans. You call them up. Solari Enterprises, Google, get their numbers. Ask Teresa when she's going to the grocery store, going to the mosque, going to wherever, spending that easy money she's making, not doing her job. Ask her, why can't I reach Melton? When else will my phone not be allowed to work? Post. Al has a bar by the airport, and he's noticed a lot of pilots in there, but they're always in there. And he says, where do you guys go? Who do you work for? And this guy with a thick Russian accent, he says, I'm with Susan Wojcicki, the YouTube gal, and she told me to keep the jet, running in case that Senate subcommittee came up. And yes, one's there for the cowardly Hussein, one's got Michael Moore, the LAPD guy, and yes, of course, Randall Stevenson's in town, and one's for, with the Chinese accent, Wu, is going to leave Tommy behind, and all those folks are not going back to where they're from. Yeah, they're going to Saudi Arabia. YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, who's worth like 400, 500 million, and hates truth, hates the saints, has found out she's going to have to testify before the Senate subcommittee, and she knows better than to run to like a nearby airport to skip country to the Russia there. But yeah, good news is Microsoft or Bill. He says he calls up those arranging that Senate subcommittee kind of stuff, and he says, oh, she's headed for Mexico. She's going to hit the plane there. Get Susan Wojcicki's active part in political censorship and lifeline censorship, more importantly. Try to call me in front of every YouTube employee and make sure they got those audio makers going when they ask about me, what they are, what Susan is including their company in. Try to call me, 424-229-4140, post. Ask the bitch Susan, why are you part of compromising our security? The Senate subcommittee has called Enrique Vergara of Solari Enterprises to the stand. They're investigating America's hijacked lifelines, me not getting the Flight 93 check in over a decade of asking, and a lot of folks, generals, the Mormon cult, Muslim cult, dangerous brothers of theirs from overseas. They call him to the stand and he says, why were you harassing a Christian in a wheelchair with Solari Enterprises and the Mormon cult and the Muslim cult directly below him? And Enrique, the furball, he's very hairy, says, I refuse to answer that on the grounds of my Fifth Amendment. And then he says, and I've also got to flee, so I don't want to answer. He starts to scratch his plea. We are at a Senate subcommittee meeting, and they've called one of the regulatory agencies, one of about 20 I was told, that give Solari Enterprises a whole lot of money to do a job. And they ask this regulatory agency, how many calls did you get about Melton, John Melton Brady, as Solari Enterprises, Teresa, Enrique were actively harassing a Christian in a wheelchair? And I said, I don't know, the boss made us run it through the shredder and erase it off the computer. Oh, save your video if you hijack call to me in front of Solari Enterprises. Post as well as your family's hijack lifeline. So Susan Wojcicki, Mega Monopoly YouTube, dangerous Mega Monopoly YouTube CEO, is testifying before the Senate Subcommittee, and the senator asks, "You're committing fraud, aren't you?" rather openly. And Susan smiles and she says, "I'm Russian. I can do that." And the senator goes on to say, it's more than just simple fraud, it's treason. You don't like a political candidate or a cause, you simply suppress their videos. You commit fraud. And yes, Melton has been telling lots of folks to make videos of your fraudulent view counts. It's at that time she tries to go with the second plan. She says, "My, isn't that a beautiful butterfly?" And she starts chasing that butterfly all over the Senate place there. We're at a Senate subcommittee meeting, and they've called Teresa, regional manager of Solari Enterprises, to the stand. The senator explains, "We're trying to find out what your company's part is in that compromising of our security that is Melton. John Melton Brady not getting a Flight 93 check of America's lifelines in over a decade. Tell me, are you connected to, do you have any contacts with ISIS, the Taliban, Saudi Arabian royal family?" And she looks over to the cowardly Hussein in the audience there, and he does this. And she says, "I refuse to answer that on the grounds that it will incriminate me," invoking the fifth, yes. The senator's receptionist comes into his office with the phone, and she says, "You're going to want to hear this," and she turns it on speakerphone, and the woman on speakerphone says, "I know all about Melton, John Melton Brady, being harassed as a Christian in a wheelchair by Solari Enterprises, by the Mormon cult, just overwhelming with their hatred and openly committing fraud, all of those folks, as part of America's hijack lifelines. I want to know what you're doing about that." He's been telling the world about that hijack lifelines and these folks dangerous in that fraud and treason. What are you doing about that? And when he hangs up, she says, "Do you think she was getting that on video?" And he says, "It doesn't matter. I got to look into that. That is true. It is a compromising of our security as a nation, and I don't want them praying to that 9/11 Muslim devil down below on my watch." And I'm uploading my joined parables for last month, July 2019, to youtube.com/DNFD series. And yes, I often hear, that's my call log videos, everything on this phone making this video. For the past half a year, that's actually about a year. So if you've tried to call me, and especially if you've talked to folks, because from the patio over there at Teague Terrace here, Solari Enterprises, Teague Terrace in the Eagle Rock, 4260 Eagle Rock Boulevard, apartment 409, I always, the ones of the moment, from Utah, gosh darn heck folks, talking about all the calls they're getting for this topic or that topic or this or that, the other, more calls than usual, that kind of thing. Whether it's Fed sponsored, Utah sponsored, California sponsored, or military treasonous sponsored. You save that video of your call, whatever boring thing you get when you don't get me, or if you get, yes, those folks from Utah. You save it for the Senate subcommittee kind of thing. Oh yeah, here's the image that has these folks going just up the wall lately. Not one comment on it. Dangerous censorship in America. Make that video if you hijack. Call to me right now, and yes, make a video of any email you send me. It's going to be stolen. Use those GPS things to find out what particular treasonous group is conducting that harassment, that treasonous stuff, and harassing a Christian in a wheelchair with their Muslim hatred, their non-Christian hatred. The Senate subcommittee has called the furball of Solari Enterprises to the stand there, and the senator says, I'm as open-minded to a fault, like Melton, Christian in a wheelchair. It takes a lot to get on my bad side, but when you are a Muslim company actively harassing a Christian in a wheelchair and openly a part of America's hijacked lifelines, yeah, we have to know, why the hell are you an active part in compromising our security as Los Angeles, as families, as America? And the furball, scratches a flea, and then he says, I refuse to answer on the grounds of my Fifth Amendment. I'm Melton. Call up Solari Enterprises 24/7. Ask them why they're harassing that Christian in the wheelchair and you.